Apartments may fuel rental income, but in Dubai, it's villas and mansions that really build legacies, preserve wealth, and sit at the top 1% of the market. So in this particular video, we are going to discover every single detail about villas and mansions. It is the segment where privacy, space, and legacy interconnect. Looking into the history, especially the last 3, 5, 10 years, and having a long-term horizon, this is where the big bucks are made when it comes to pure real estate investments. For HNWIs, for ultra HNWIs, this is exactly the product which is perfect for wealth preservation because of its limited supply and because of its high demand overall, looking at the demographics of people coming to Dubai. In this video, we're going to dive into the different segments and subcategories of villas and mansions. We're looking into specific numbers, okay, especially transaction examples of certain communities to give you kind of a feeling, an estimation, what you can expect in terms of a capital appreciation in a long-term horizon. And we're going to discover the specific locations, the established locations, and especially the ones which are coming up exactly measured for those kind of products. This video is extremely important as a base basically for every single villa and mansion product which I'm explaining later on, because everything builds onto exactly what we're discovering in this particular video. So with that being said, let's start with the core economics. Let's start with the numbers in the first place. The supply and demand ratio. That is literally the most important measurement that I'm looking at when it comes to picking and choosing the right investment product for my clients. And looking into the segment of villas and mansions, I can see clearly, based on actual numbers and statistics, that we have a massive shortage of supply. Not only right now, but in the next 3, 5, 10 years even, because we can specifically see who builds villa communities and how are they built and how much does it cost for developer, what's the profit margin, and what's the demographic of the buyer. So what I mean by that, we can see that more and more global HNWIs, ultra HNWIs, families, top people who see themselves longer in the city, they're moving to Dubai, they're migrating to Dubai, and they don't only bring themselves, but they bring the whole family. They bring maybe 1 or 2 or 3 kids. So the demand for space, for privacy, for actual houses on large plots is going through the roof right now, but there are only a few developers who are actually catering that demand. So let me explain that. Let's consider we're having 100% of properties, okay, available. 85% of those 100% are considered as apartments right now in the year 2025, in the first half. But only 10 to 12% are considered as villas and townhouses. And out of those 10 to 12%, we see less than 1% which are actually mansions, okay? Mansions considering big plots, large plots, okay, on 15, 20, 30, 35,000 square foot, and basically a built-up area in between 20 and 25,000 square foot, for example, okay? These mansions, they're very limited, they're very rare. And I'm always looking out for products which are rare, which are limited, but there is still a massive demand for them overall long term. These are basically the actual numbers which I took from the Dubai Screening Center, and this is the baseline where we're diving into the specifics of the overall video. All right, let's move on, and let me just show you 1 or 2 very important insights about an Arabian business article, because it just shows us and it's demonstrating us where Dubai's market is heading and where there is actually the big opportunity lying right now. So if we're looking into it, we can see, number 1, that Dubai's ultra luxury market is right now maturing, which is an extremely important sign that shows us that speculators are getting less and less, and people are looking into more of an end user perspective. So they're seeing themselves living in those kind of homes. Very important for the stability overall of the market. Then we're having a shortage of villas, which I'm explaining all the time in this particular video. Why? Because prime land, which we can see here for ultra luxury villas, especially on the Palm, for example, on the Jumeirah Bay Island, okay, which is Bulgaria, or on or in Dubai Emirates Hills, okay, these are the top locations when it comes to villas, when it comes to mansions, when it comes to big homes, okay, standing on 25, 30, 35,000 plots. And this land is extremely limited because it's basically established there. The communities are done, okay, they are completed, and therefore land constraint is the basic result of it, okay, and that shows us that we have a consistently high demand for those kind of products. Same goes for apartments. When it comes to ready ultra luxury apartments, there's a massive supply shortage, okay, and these people, they're looking into true branded residences right now, okay, hospitality, high-end residences. This is exactly the shift which we can observe in the market right now. Well, before I dive into the actual economics just in a second, let me add one more thing which is super interesting here, because I found this on Construction Week, and it is the perfect combination that looking into villas and mansions is exactly the way to go right now. Why? Because they are referring to the Q4 report of Knight Frank from the last year, okay? And you can see very clearly that Dubai's villa segment, like they explain it, is still the standout performer. And why is that the case? Because we're having a 38% increase compared to the 2014 peak only in this particular segment. Look, when it comes to choosing and selecting products, I'm always looking out for certain types of products, and especially here again, like Knight Frank confirms it, standalone homes, which are basically standalone villas, same like waterfront properties at all sorts, and branded residences, okay, especially hospitality branded residences. These are exactly the type of products to look out for. Why? Because the global elite's preferences, they have changed, and they like homes which deliver privacy, luxury, and obviously access to all of the lifestyle activities which you can do in Dubai, okay? So this is basically the overall segment, the overall direction where the market is heading. I could give you like dozens of those kind of articles, but I think you can get the message now and you see the top confirmation. Let's understand exactly where this limited supply is actually coming from and what are the reasons why this overall segment is so high in demand. And therefore I just simplified as much as I could and put it into 2 different brackets, which you see right now on my screen. And let me explain that step by step. Number 1 is definitely the factor of land constraints and development economics. So what that means is the following. Let's consider we are a developer and we're building a simple apartment building. Then the whole story is quite easy because we are scaling into the vertical, okay, upwards. However, if we're deciding to go for a villa community, now we're scaling into horizontal, and as a result, we need to acquire more land, 5 to 10 times more land per unit. Why? Because we need to consider landscaping, we need to consider gardens, private pools for the resident, okay, the car garages, definitely driveways, and so on. So that's just a broader spectrum of land which we need to calculate into that unit in order to fulfill the expectations and the wishes of our clients, right? And that comes as a result that the developer's return on investment is tendentially lower compared to just like acquiring a particular plot, okay, with the gross floor area and just scale it into the vertical. So therefore fewer players, and players considered as a developer at this particular point, are able and are willing to do that at scale. With scale, I mean many communities and not just one particular community out of 200-300 units. And the result is then definitely that we're having a limited number of those kind of communities where we find luxury villas due to the factor of the calculation, the budgeting of the developer. This is number 1. Number 2 is definitely the exclusivity, okay, privacy and the lifestyle. Super simple story here. HNWIs, ultra HNWIs, they like space, they like privacy, and they don't want to share necessarily all the time the lobbies and the elevators with other people, and therefore they have definitely those kind of elements when it comes to the villas. Now, number 2 is definitely, as we already spoken, the locations, like prime locations like Emirates Hills, Jumeirah Bay Islands, or like Palm Jumeirah, for example, okay? They are all capped when it comes to land availability, which we see right now already, especially when we're looking into beachfronts. You can never create more beachfront plots, but you can always build more towers. So with beachfront plots, I'm speaking about, in order to get them, you need to have such an incredible development like a Palm Jumeirah, like a Palm Jebel Ali, and you cannot like do that from one day to another, right? This is carefully planned over years and years and years of work, of brainstorming of ideas of the government itself. And these kind of communities, they are gated within gated. So what that means is the following. If we are trying to get into Bulgaria, for example, without even explaining at the gate what we want to do and who do we visit, we most probably cannot enter the community. So the level of security in such gated community is extremely high, depending on what kind of residences are living there and depending on what kind of class of community this is actually. And last but not least is definitely the lifestyle vehicle. So I see a product of this as a lifestyle vehicle in terms of like having private pools, having an own cinema, for example, okay, show garages, rooftop deck definitely, and obviously a golf course access, especially when we're speaking about communities like Dubai Hills or Emirates Hills. All right, let's break down the 3 different subcategories of the overall housing segment. And here we start with the townhouses and semi-detached villas. And I gotta be fairly honest, I'm not specialized in this subcategory. I'm more or less specialized in standalone villas and mansions. But when we're speaking about this category, we have to identify and understand the product itself, because the product is shared, okay, with either 1 or 2 walls. So either on both sides of the house or on one side that is connected to another house. They mostly come in 4-plexes, 6-plexes, or like in 3-plexes, the townhouses, okay? And the semi-detached villas, they are attached on one side, so they come in 2-plexes. Here we're speaking about a garden. They definitely have a garden and the private entrance. However, they don't sit on a standalone single plot. This is the core difference compared to the actual standalone villa. And these products, they are a part of gated communities, okay? And they do have a variety of amenities like clubhouses, for example, jogging tracks, and so on. And the most common layouts are definitely 3 and 4 bedroom products. Now, when it comes to the indicators, they are approximate figures, okay? Approximate figures. I'm not referring to anything in the secondary market was launched like 15, 20 years ago. I'm referring to what's currently available in off-plan here in Dubai. So this should be quite accurate numbers. When it comes to the plot metrics, the plot can range in between 1,800 square foot to 5,500 square foot. The built-up area, the actual living size, roughly in between 1,700 to 3,500 square foot. And when it comes to the price range, starting price for a reasonable 3-bedroom townhouse, for example, let's take the Valley, for example, from Emar, which is a nice product. We're speaking about roughly 2.5 million dirhams in entry ticket, okay? And they can go up to 8 million plus, okay? 8 million, for example, is a product in the Watercrest by Ellington, which is a townhouse considered, but they are at 8 million dirhams, so you can see there's a broad range in this particular segment of products. Product type number 2 is the standalone villa. And based on the information which I have given you earlier in this video, as well as the numbers, facts and figures, the whole demand is shifting exactly into that subcategory right now of the market. And that's why it makes a lot of sense to put our attention on it and to really understand this particular segment extensively. So let's dive into it. The standalone villa has definitely some core differences compared to the townhouse and the semi-detached villa, because here we're speaking about an individual standalone plot, okay? And these properties, they come with a private garden in most of the cases, as well as the private pool and the car garages. So when we're speaking about privacy and space, we're having these factors definitely given with the standalone villa. When it comes to the design and the finishings, okay, we're having definitely upgraded standards right now in the newer master plans, especially in products like the Acres Estates or the Address Villas in the Oasis, okay? This is what I can observe right now. The common layouts are 4, 5 and 6 bedroom standalone villas with terraces, maids rooms, okay, show kitchens, dirty kitchens, so they have 2 kitchens, for example, open plan layouts, floor to ceiling windows, a lot of natural lights coming in. This is the typical product which we can find right now off plan, okay, from top developers in top locations and communities. And this is why there's such a huge demand for those kind of properties. Now, when it comes to the approximate indicators, again, okay, these are approximate numbers of what we can find off plan nowadays and not what was launched 10 years ago. We're speaking about properties, a 3-bed or 4-bed standalone villa, for example, okay, in an entry plot ticket of 5,000 square foot. So 5,000 square foot is definitely a plot which is more on a smaller scale, and they can go up to 15, 16, 70,000 square foot for the 6 bedrooms, okay? When we're speaking about the built-up area, we're speaking about a range of 3,500 square foot all the way up to 11, 12, 13,000 square foot for standalone villas when it comes to the actual living space. And then the off-plan price range. Here, I just used as a reference, for example, the 5.5 million as an entry when we're looking into a 3-bedroom standalone villa. It was launched from in the Acres, okay, in the standard Acres villas by Miraz. They were priced at 5.5, 6 million dirhams. This is the entry tickets. The sweet spot, my personal opinion, and based on the actual products that I'm looking out for, is in a range of 10, 15 to 80 million dirhams for standalone villas, because here we can acquire larger land parcels, okay, plots, and specifically corner units, for example, and exactly the type of products which are the most scarce, the most unique overall in a concept of a master plan. So basically here, the range 5.5 million dirhams, okay, all the way up to 20, 30, 40 million dirhams. There's basically no end, depending obviously on the plot size, the build-up area, and what kind of concept is behind it. Product type number 3 is the mansion. Especially a beachfront mansion is literally the creme de la creme, the pinnacle of real estate, which you can acquire here in Dubai. And the differences compared to a standalone villa, they can be massive. So especially when we're looking into the plot sizes of some properties in Dubai Hills, in Emirates Hills, they're sitting sometimes on 25, 30, 35,000 square foot plots. So they are massive, and oftentimes they are custom built. So people who were able to acquire a very highly demanded, highly desired land parcel, they were able to build their own property exactly the way how they imagined it, and you can already like estimate what kind of prestigious homes they are. So in terms of like having a status symbol and having a very unique home where you have a massive increase in value over time, this is exactly the segment we're speaking about. So let's dive into the specifics of the mansion itself. It is a very interesting category, as already mentioned. It is a top 1% category. So less than 1% of all the properties which exist in Dubai falling into this category of a mansion. They are sometimes, as I already mentioned, custom built, okay? And these people, they put in sometimes home cinemas, gyms, spas, libraries, whatever comes to their heart, basically. Number 2, they are a part of the most prestigious communities of Dubai. So I already mentioned Emirates Hills, definitely Dubai Hills, the Jumeirah Bay Island, Bulgari Island, like the Palm Jumeirah as well, and obviously Lamia South / Shavon Beach, where we find the incredible development of Jumeirah Asora Bay, okay? Now, these properties, they are extremely rare. I call them like rare assets, trophy assets, and if you are buying something like that, you are acquiring literally architectural art within a community of global elites, okay? Because you are a part of people who are like very high up in the food chain, if you want so. So when it comes to like status, scarcity, and legacy, this is exactly where we're heading into it. Now, coming on to the approximate indicators, Here we're speaking about plots, okay, starting at roughly 11,000 square foot, and as I mentioned, they can go up to like 49,000 square foot, especially for the biggest plots of the Jumeirah Azora Bay mansions, which are on the corner, directly on Dubai's coastline. The built-up area can start at the smaller ones, okay, at 8, 9, 10,000 square foot, and then they can go up to like 30, 35,000 square foot as well, built-up area, actual living size, okay. When it comes to the off-plan price range, again, there are different forms and categories of mansions in itself as well, but I'm not explaining that, it would be too complicated. Let's say overall 20 million square foot, okay, is the entry ticket into a real solid big mansion, and they can go up beyond the 300 million dirhams plus, okay? So especially Jumeirah Azora Bay is at 350 million dirhams, but considering a 49,000 square foot plots, this is quite reasonable as well. So this is the overall category of mansions, super unique, super special. Fantastic. And now you should understand exactly why villas and mansions dominate the wealth game when it comes to Dubai's overall real estate market. And I strongly assume you have a couple of questions on your mind like, Simon, where is the next big opportunity? Which exact products to look out for? Which locations, which developers, and so on. And this is exactly why you're here on my channel Deals with Simon, because I want to clarify all those kind of questions. When it comes to unique mansions, something like which is only for the top 1%, for multi-millionaires, ultra wealthy people, billionaires, then I urge you to watch out for one of my next videos, which is the Jumeirah Azora Bay, because here we'll find 6 unique ocean mansions with plots in between 42 and 49,000 square foot. They are massive. This is a product which is only reserved for a very unique clientele. And on the other side, if you're looking out for standalone villas, 2 mansions in this particular bracket of, let's say, 10, 15, 20, 25 million dirhams, 2 very interesting products in master plans right now is the Oasis and the Acres Estates, and similar products which potentially coming up in the course of this particular year, 2025, when I'm recording this video. So these are the 2 different categories. You'll find these videos on my channel Deals with Simon. Definitely watch them, definitely check them out. Look, some of the best projects in Dubai are never advertised, and some of the biggest profits, the biggest returns, they happen from quiet moves when literally no one sees. And to identify those kind of moves and to identify those kind of opportunities, this is exactly what we're doing in our private one-on-one consultation. And this is exactly my offer for you. If you like the way how I explain those kind of concepts, if you like the way how I break down my overall mindset in terms of investments and buying rare and exclusive properties, then this is the perfect chance for you to take action. Just click the link below this particular video, fill out the form, give me some upfront information, very accurately if possible, in order to prepare myself properly for this particular meeting. With that being said, click the link below, fill out the form, see you on the other side, and I'll see you in Dubai.